The problem with being officially dead is that no one asks your consent when they sell you. The underground auction hall smells like disinfectant and money, cold, clean, and faintly metallic. No windows, no clocks, just glass walls, steel beams, and a ceiling so low it presses on the lungs. A coffin designed by an architect with a sense of humor. I stand on a circular platform under white lights that are too bright to be kind and too cold to be accidental. My hands aren't bound. That's intentional. Bound hands would suggest fear. This place prefers compliance. Lot 37, the auctioneer announces. Voice smooth. Practiced. Bored. Omega. Former covert asset. Divergent specialization. Status. Presumed Kia. Presumed killed in action. I almost smile. Presumed is doing a lot of work there. A few heads lift. Screens around the room display my file. Sanitized. Summarized. Stripped of context. Height. Weight. Genetic markers. Combat aptitude reduced to neat percentages. No mention of the names I buried. No mention of the orders I didn't question because questioning them would have meant dying sooner. They don't say my name at first. Names make things messy. Trophy asset, the auctioneer continues. Recovered through private channels. Guaranteed authenticity. Authenticity, like I'm a painting, or a knife with a certificate. I catalog the room out of habit. 3 military delegates pretending not to look at me. 2 corporate intermediaries, who definitely are. 1 man in the back who smells like old power and newer lies. No visible weapons. Plenty of hidden ones. The kind of crowd that believes distance absolves them. I don't feel fear. That surprises me a little. What I feel is anger, sharp, contained, crystalline. The kind that clears your vision instead of clouding it. I am alive because the system needs me to be alive. If this story caught you, subscribe. More are waiting. That's the only reason. Not mercy. Not luck. Utility. Being dead would have been simpler. Omega diversant, the auctioneer adds, finally glancing in my direction. His eyes slide off me like water off glass. Conditioned. Controlled. Sold as is. Controlled. I tilt my head just enough to suggest docility. Let my shoulders relax. Play the part they paid for. Somewhere in the room, someone exhales, satisfied. I mark them for later, purely out of professional curiosity. Then I feel it. Not a scent, not a pull. A tension. I look past the glass, past the glowing screens, and find him. Damien Kane stands apart from the others, hands clasped behind his back, posture precise enough to look effortless. No entourage. No visible rank insignia. He doesn't lean forward. He doesn't stare. He assesses. There's nothing predatory in his gaze. No hunger. No indulgence. Just calculation, clean and exact, like a blade measuring distance before a strike. Alpha. Legend, according to the rumors. The kind who ends wars not with speeches, but with decisions. Our eyes don't meet for long. They don't need to. The auctioneer clears his throat. Opening bid. I'll take him. The voice cuts through the room, without raising itself. Damien Kane doesn't look at the auctioneer when he speaks. He looks at the platform. At me. The number he offers is high enough to silence the room. High enough to end the pretense. A pause. The brief, sacred moment, where someone might object. No one does. The hammer comes down with a sharp final crack. Sold. Just like that. The glass walls hum softly as the platform powers down. Somewhere deep in the building, mechanisms shift, doors unlock, protocols engage. I lower my gaze, because that's what trophies do. Inside, I smile. The operation has officially begun. They don't march me out like a prize. That's the first thing that feels wrong. The private corridor behind the auction hall is narrow and dim. All matte steel and muted lights. 2 guards flank me. Not touching, not rushing. Close enough to intervene. Far enough to signal restraint. The message is subtle but deliberate. Asset in transfer, not property on display. Damien Kane walks a few steps ahead of us. Up close, the rumors rearrange themselves in my head. Short flashes, uninvited and sharp, cities going quiet overnight, ceasefires signed. Without celebration, Enemy commanders vanishing between one sunrise and the next. The alpha who doesn't negotiate twice. The one who ends wars because prolonging them is inefficient. He stops without warning. The guards halt with military precision. I almost smile again. Almost. Kane turns. His eyes meet mine directly this time. Gray, steady, uncurious in the way that suggests discipline, not disinterest. "You can walk," he says. Not a question. Not an order either. An observation. "I already am," I reply. One of the guards stiffens. Kane doesn't react. We stand there, measuring. I let a flicker of omega softness surface, just enough to test the waters. Tilt my head. Drop my gaze a fraction. Nothing. No tightening of his jaw. No shift in stance. No scent spike. If anything, he looks faintly bored. That's irritating. "So," I say lightly, "is this the part where you tell me what you bought?" Kane studies me for a moment longer than necessary. "No." Short. Clean. No heat. I try again. "You paid a lot for something labeled as is. That doesn't usually end well for the something. Depends on the buyer. Still nothing. No threat. No dominance play. Just facts. I feel it then. A faint dissonance, like a note played slightly off key. Not a pull. Not a bond. Just awareness. My instincts lean forward and then stop, confused by the lack of expected response. Unsettling. We start walking again. "Why me?" I ask. "Plenty of trophies in that room." "You weren't acting," Kane says. "Most of them were." That earns him a glance. Acting how? Like they believed the story. I snort quietly. "And you didn't." "I don't buy stories." He pauses. "I buy outcomes." There it is. We reach a sealed door. Beyond it, I can sense a larger space. Transport hangar, maybe. Engines idling low. Kane turns to face me fully now. "I bought you to end a war," he says. Fast. Not to own. Not to control. Not even to use. To end something. The clarity of it lands heavier than any threat could have. My anger shifts, reshapes itself into something colder, more alert. "That's ambitious," I say. "For one omega." A corner of his mouth twitches. If I blink, I might miss it. "War doesn't end because of numbers," he replies. "It ends because someone becomes inconvenient." The door slides open. Kane gestures once, sharp and precise. Full lockdown, immediate transport, no deviations. The guards move. As I step forward, I realize what's bothering me most. He never once looked at me like I belonged to him. And somehow, that scares me more than if he had. Military transports are honest spaces. Everything inside them has a purpose, and none of it is comfort. Clean white panels. Fold-down seats bolted to the walls. The air smells faintly of antiseptic and recycled oxygen. No windows. No wasted space. No illusions. I sit where they indicate. Hands still unbound. That's the second thing that doesn't fit. A medic scans my vitals without touching more than necessary. Efficient. Professional. He avoids my eyes, not out of contempt, but focus. When he's done, he nods once and steps back. No restraints, no sedatives, no whispered instructions about compliance. I keep waiting for the moment when someone remembers I'm an omega. It doesn't come. Damien Kane stands near the forward bulkhead, reviewing a holographic display. He doesn't acknowledge me until the engines power up and the deck hums under my boots. "Rules," he says then. I glance up. Already my favorite word. He looks at me. Expression unreadable. "No violence unless necessary." That's generous. "No games." I smile. "You're going to have to define that." His eyes sharpen, just a fraction. "You already know what I mean." I do. And I hate that he's right. "What about ownership?" I ask lightly. "Do I come with a leash, or is that extra?" One of the guards shifts, uncomfortable. The medic pretends very hard to be interested in a diagnostic panel. Kane doesn't react. "You're not here for that." "Then, what am I?" I press. Property or prisoner? Neither, he says. You're a variable. That lands harder than any insult could have. The transport lifts smoothly. Gravity adjusts. Somewhere behind us, a hatch seals with a final, heavy click. I open my mouth to make another joke, and then I taste it. Bitter. Metallic. Wrong. My body reacts before my thoughts do. I push off the seat, lunging forward as my hand snaps to the emergency vent override. The panel cracks under my strike. I rip it open and slam it shut again, sealing the compartment. Air. I shout. Filter 3. The guards freeze for half a second too long. The medic stares at the readout, eyes widening. Neurotoxin. Slow acting. Colorless. Designed to incapacitate, not kill. Someone wanted me quiet. Someone patient. I drop back into my seat, forcing my breathing shallow, controlled. My pulse spikes and then steadies as the antidote floods my system. Muscle memory, drilled in until it became instinct. The transport lurches as secondary systems engage. Silence. When I look up, everyone is staring at me, including Kane. Not with suspicion, not with anger, with interest. That was fast, the medic mutters. Too fast, one of the guards adds. I shrug. I don't like surprises. Kane steps closer, not invading my space, just nearer. His gaze flicks to the damaged panel, the sealed vent, the steady line of my vitals on the medic's display. You didn't hesitate, he says. I didn't need to. For a moment, the faint hum of the engines is the only sound. Then he straightens. You don't move like bait, Kane says quietly. The words hang there, heavy and precise. I meet his eyes and offer a thin smile. Maybe that's because I'm not. And for the first time since the auction, he doesn't look at me like a problem to be managed, but like a calculation that just changed. The command compartment is quieter than the rest of the transport, insulated from the engine's constant thrum. Holographic maps float in the air, shifting slowly. Front lines, supply routes, pressure points rendered in cold light. War, reduced to geometry. Kane dismisses the guards with a glance. The door seals. The space becomes private in a way that tightens my shoulders without me asking it to. He doesn't turn immediately. Studies the map. Lets the silence stretch just long enough to be deliberate. You're not a victim, he says. No preamble. No softening. I blink once. That's your opening line? Yes. I huff a quiet laugh and lean back against the console. Careful. Say it louder and someone might think you're defending me. Kane finally faces me. I'm stating a fact. Something in my chest shifts. Uncomfortable, almost electric. I push it down and keep my tone light. You bought a dead Omega at a black market auction. The odds say victim. The odds lie, he says. And so do people who expect me to believe them. I tilt my head. You saying I'm a liar? I'm saying you're not what they tried to sell. That lands closer than I like. I feel it then. My body reacting before my mind catches up. A brief warmth along my spine. A subtle awareness, like standing too close to a heat source you didn't notice until it was already there. I step back, casually. Pretend it's nothing. Let me guess, I say. You think this is all some grand manipulation. Smoke and mirrors, me at the center, smiling politely while the system eats itself. I think, Kane replies evenly, that someone put a lot of effort into making you look powerless. My humor falters for half a second. I mask it quickly. Congratulations, I say. You've cracked the mystery. Want a medal, or my tragic backstory? His gaze sharpens, not offended. Focused. I don't want either. Then what do you want? I ask, and I hate how real the question sounds. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he steps closer. Not close enough to touch, but enough that the air between us feels charged, not scent, not dominance, something quieter, more dangerous, control maybe, or restraint. You don't smell like a victim, he says. You smell like someone who survived on purpose. My breath catches before I can stop it. I don't want this. Don't want to be seen like this. Being underestimated kept me alive. Being invisible was safer. I didn't survive for anyone, I say flatly. And I'm not special. Kane's jaw tightens. Just a fraction. Good. I don't work with people who think they are. There it is, the line in the sand. For a moment the maps flicker. Just a glitch, a recalibration. My skin prickles again, sharper this time. The sensation fades as quickly as it came, leaving unease in its wake. I step away, folding my arms. So what now? Alpha who ends wars? Now, he says, turning back to the display, we find out who wanted you quiet. The console chimes. Incoming transmission. Kane's eyes narrow as the data unfolds in the air. Encrypted, internal, urgent. Double agent, he says after a beat. In my command staff. The words settle like a loaded weapon between us. And suddenly, being sold feels like the least dangerous part of this story. The base sleeps under artificial night. Low clouds press against the shield dome, bleeding the stars into dull silver streaks. Floodlights cut hard shadows across concrete and steel. Everything smells like wet metal and ozone, storm residue, or the promise of one. I don't like this place. Too quiet. Too staged. Kane senses it too. I can tell by the way he slows half a step, by the subtle shift in his posture that signals readiness without panic. 2 minutes, he says into his calm. Then we move. We don't make it to one. The first shot takes out the tower lights. Darkness slams down, heavy and abrupt. Alarms scream to life a heartbeat later, too late to be useful. Contact, I say, already moving. I don't wait for orders. I drop, roll, come up behind a supply crate as energy fire tears through the space where my head was. The world narrows to angles and timing. Muscle memory takes over. There's no room for pretending anymore. I fire once, twice. Clean shots. Figures move along the perimeter, trained, coordinated. Not insurgents, not random. This is a message. Kane, I snap, ducking as something explodes where I stood a second ago. This isn't local. I know, he replies, voice calm in my ear. Left flank. I move without thinking, trusting him the way you trust gravity to pull you down. He covers my blind side flawlessly. No overlap, no hesitation. This is what he does. This is why wars end around him. A figure breaks through the smoke, too close. I don't slow. I pivot, strike, disarm. The body hits the ground hard and doesn't get back up. I don't feel anything about it. That's not Omega training, Kane says, flat and sharp. No, I answer, breath steady. It's not. Another blast rocks the ground. I stagger, catch myself, keep moving. The adrenaline is a bright, clean thing in my veins. They wanted me dead, I say, as we fall back toward cover. Officially, Kane fires, precise and brutal. They already did. Exactly. I reload, hands steady. My death was part of the operation. Clean slate. No trail. Dead men don't raise questions. His silence is brief. Calculating. And now you're alive, he says. On my transport. And on display, I add. Sold, bought, very visible. Understanding clicks between us, sharp and immediate. They use the auction to flush me out, Kane says. And me with you. I glance at him, catching his profile in the flickering emergency lights. Congratulations. You sped up the timeline. A shot grazes my side, burning, searing. I hiss, but don't slow. The pain is distant, manageable. Kane's head snaps toward me. You're hit. I've had worse, I say, and mean it. We push forward together, coordinated without words. He anticipates my moves. I cover his gaps. No hierarchy. No hesitation. The attackers retreat as suddenly as they came, vanishing into the dark. The alarms fade into a dull, distant wail. Silence settles, thick and uneasy. I straighten, forcing my breathing even. My side aches, warm and wet, under my fingers. Kane steps closer, eyes scanning me with a precision that borders on personal. You should be down. I meet his gaze, pulse still racing. Dead men make the best bait. I stay on my feet, even as the blood keeps running. The medbay smells like antiseptic and controlled panic. White lights, smooth surfaces, machines humming softly, pretending this is routine. A medic seals the wound at my side with practiced efficiency, hands steady, eyes deliberately unfocused. I appreciate that. Pain is easier when no one makes it dramatic. Not deep, he mutters. You're lucky. I bite back a laugh. Luck had very little to do with any of this. Give us a minute, Kane says. The medic hesitates, then nods and retreats. The door slides shut behind him with a soft hiss. The silence that follows is heavier than the one after the attack. I sit up before anyone can tell me not to. Kane turns on me immediately. You should have told me. I raise an eyebrow. Which part? The being declared dead part or the being shot at part? This, he snaps, cutting the air between us with a sharp gesture. All of it. There it is. Not the cold anger of a commander recalculating losses. This is tighter, contained, personal, whether he likes it or not. I lean back against the medbed, ignoring the protest from my ribs. If it helps, I didn't volunteer. That doesn't make it better. No, I agree. But it makes it accurate. He paces once, then stops. Fists clenched at his sides. You were bait. I meet his eyes. Don't dodge this time. Yes. The word hangs there, stark and unsoftened. They wanted a reaction, I continue quietly. Something public, something clean. Kill the Omega everyone thought was already dead, and anyone standing too close gets caught in the fallout. Anyone, Kane repeats. I give a thin smile. You, for example. For a moment, he says nothing. When he does, his voice is low. They meant to discard you. They planned to, I correct. Use me to flush out certain players, then erase the inconvenience. I shrug with one shoulder. Standard procedure. Kane's jaw tightens. You're saying this like, it doesn't matter. I snort softly. I'm saying it like I've had time to get used to it. That finally breaks something. He turns away, dragging a hand through his hair, a sharp, unguarded gesture that looks almost like frustration, or guilt, or both. You're not expendable, he says flatly. The words hit harder than the toxin ever could. I feel it then. Something loosening in my chest. Not relief. Recognition. I didn't realize how tightly I'd been holding myself together until that moment. Careful, I warn myself. Don't make this about him. I appreciate the sentiment, I say lightly. Really, very heroic. But I promise you, I'm excellent at surviving systems that don't care. He looks back at me, eyes dark. That doesn't mean I won't. The silence stretches again, different this time. Charged, uncomfortable. A console chimes. Kane turns, pulls the data into the air. Lines of code, timelines, transactions layered with too much precision to be coincidence. His expression hardens. The auction, he says slowly. It wasn't just to sell you. I slide off the medbed, ignoring the sting, and stand beside him. No, I say. It was to kill us. He exhales once, sharp and controlled. And for the first time, I see it clearly. The war wasn't the trap. We were. They put us in a quiet room after that. No alarms, no maps, no hovering medics pretending not to listen. Just a sealed compartment with soft lighting and walls designed to absorb sound. The kind of place meant for decisions that don't make it into reports. I sit on the edge of a narrow table, flexing my fingers. My side still aches, but it's manageable. Pain I can catalog. What I can't catalog is the low-level static under my skin. Like my nerves are tuned to the wrong frequency. Kane stands across from me, arms crossed, posture rigid. Neither of us speaks. The silence stretches until it becomes data. You felt it, he says finally. It's not a question. I exhale through my nose. If you're talking about the sudden urge to punch a wall or you'll need to be more specific. His jaw tightens. Physiological response. Timing. Proximity. Wow. I deadpan. You make it sound very romantic. His eyes flick to mine. Sharp. This isn't romantic. Good, I say quickly. Because that would be inconvenient. There it is again. That awareness. Subtle. Persistent. Not a pull, not heat, not anything the training manuals ever warned me about. Just alignment, like standing too close to a machine that's perfectly calibrated to your own frequency. I hate it. I slide off the table and pace once. Let's be clear. Whatever this is, it's a coincidence. Stress, adrenaline, shared near-death experiences do weird things to the nervous system. Kane watches me with a look that suggests he doesn't believe in coincidences. True bonds don't ask permission, he says. I stop short. Don't. I'm not claiming. Don't, I repeat, sharper now. I am not doing this. Not with you. Not with anyone. Not after. I cut myself off, jaw tight. No. His eyes darken. I didn't ask for this either. That snaps something. Of course you didn't. I shoot back. You're an alpha. You collect wars, not complications. He steps closer. The air shifting between us again. You think I don't know exactly what this would cost? I laugh once. Harsh and humorless. Please. I was literally sold 2 days ago. Forgive me if I'm not eager to reframe that as destiny. The tension coils tighter, brittle, and dangerous. Neither of us backs down. Neither of us steps closer either. Finally, Kane turns away, breaking the moment like snapping a wire. It doesn't matter. Relief hits me too fast. Agreed. He activates the console with a sharp motion. Data spills into the air. Transaction logs, comm intercepts, predictive models. Cold, familiar, safe. They didn't just plan to eliminate you, he says. They modeled outcomes. My stomach sinks. Probability curves, he continues. If you died at auction, acceptable loss. If you survived and were bought by a neutral party, acceptable risk. If I bought you, he stops. I finish it quietly. Maximum efficiency. He looks at me again. They calculated that one move would erase both of us. The room feels smaller. I let out a slow breath. So much for coincidence. Kane's voice is steady, but there's something iron hard underneath it now. They tried to wipe the board clean. I meet his gaze, the static under my skin sharpening into something like resolve. Well, I say dryly, that's rude. And somewhere deep in the system, I know, they didn't just try to kill us. They tried to make sure we never mattered at all. The headquarters doesn't celebrate victories. It absorbs them. Steel corridors hum with low, constant power. Information panels line the walls, feeding live data into the system. Fleet movements, political responses, probability forecasts that pretend the future is something you can spreadsheet into submission. Kane walks beside me, long strides, clipped focus. No guards between us now, no visible barriers. That feels intentional. We enter the main operations chamber. The doors seal. The panels flare to life, flooding the room with layered projections. The conspiracy unfolds not as a revelation, but as confirmation, patterns snapping into place with brutal elegance. This wasn't about territory, Kane says, or resources. I study the streams of data, my mind sliding into analysis mode because emotion would be less useful right now. No, it was about control. Omegas highlighted across the projections, supply chains, influence hubs, destabilization points, assets, pressure valves, triggers embedded in systems designed to look neutral. Strategic leverage, I murmur. You don't deploy an Omega to win. You deploy them to force reactions. Kane's gaze hardens. And you, I nod once. Perfect trigger. Officially dead. Operationally flexible. Easy to erase if the outcome wasn't favorable. And me, he adds. Too independent. Too visible. Too effective. The system didn't want a war ended. It managed. Prolonged. Profitable. Kane ending it quickly was a liability. Me surviving it all was an error. They wrapped it in a contract, I say. Auctioned me off so it would look legal. Transactional. Clean. Which made the elimination deniable, Kane finishes. One move. 2 problems solved. The panels shift. New data streams in. An incoming transmission. Priority coded. Internal. I don't like the timing. Kane opens it without hesitation. A face appears. Bland, authoritative, carefully neutral. Someone who has never been anywhere near a battlefield. Commander Kane, the man says. This situation has escalated beyond acceptable parameters. I cross my arms. He means us. The man's eyes flick to me, calculating. The Omega asset is the focal point of the instability asset. Right. We're prepared to de-escalate. The man continues smoothly. Immediately. Kane's voice is cold. By doing what? A pause, just long enough to be deliberate. Return the Omega to custody, the man says. Terminate the irregularity. I laugh, sharp and humorless. You really hate efficiency when it doesn't belong to you. The man ignores me. In exchange, hostilities will cease. No further action will be taken against you. Against you. The omission is loud. Kane doesn't look at me when he responds. You're asking me to surrender him? Yes, the man says. To preserve stability, I feel the room tilt, not physically, but internally. This is the moment. The pivot point the system built the whole trap around. Kane finally turns his head, meeting my gaze. The panels hum. The transmission waits. The ultimatum hangs between us, precise and merciless. Hand over the Omega, or burn everything that thought it owned us. The communication center is built like a bunker for voices. Thick walls, redundant systems, consoles layered with encryption so dense it feels almost personal. This is where wars get narrated into existence, where truths are filtered until they become acceptable. Kane gives me one look as we step inside, not a command, an opening. I take it. If they want me quiet, I say, already moving toward the central console. They should have killed me when they had the chance. He doesn't stop me. That matters more than anything else he could do. My fingers fly over the interface, muscle memory taking over. I've spent years learning how systems listen, and how they don't. Firewalls peel back, locks disengage, channels open. What are you doing? Kane asks, though his posture suggests he already knows. Going public, I say. If I'm a trigger, I might as well pull myself. I route the feed wide. Too wide. Military oversight, corporate boards, independent networks, civilian channels that were never meant to intersect with classified operations. My face appears on the primary display. I take a breath. Hello, I say. My name is Theo. Officially, I'm dead. The silence on the line is immediate and absolute. I was declared Kia 18 months ago, I continue, voice steady. Tonight, I was sold at a private auction as a strategic asset. If that sounds illegal, congratulations. You're paying attention. I glance sideways at Kane. His expression is unreadable, but he hasn't looked away. Apparently, I add dryly, being deceased doesn't void your resale value. The humor lands. I can feel it ripple through the channel. Disbelief, anger, attention sharpening into focus. I keep going. I'm not the only one, I say. Omegas have been positioned as leverage points in conflicts you've been told are unavoidable. We're not soldiers. We're not prizes. We're pressure. Data streams onto the feed, contracts, transaction records, predictive models stripped of their euphemisms. They sold me to eliminate a commander who ends wars too fast, I say. And me for surviving one. The system stirs. Alarms flicker across the console. Before you ask, I add almost cheerfully, no, I didn't consent. But since I was already being traded, I figured I might as well negotiate. Kane's mouth twitches. Barely. The room vibrates as countermeasures engage. Firewalls slam down. Signals jam. Someone, somewhere, is scrambling to regain control of the narrative. Too late. The feed fractures, splintering across networks faster than they can contain it. I end the transmission with a simple line. I choose not to be disposable. The screens go dark. For half a second, there is nothing. Then the building shudders. Red lights flood the room. Sirens scream. Defensive grids power up with a force that rattles my bones. Kane's calm crackles to life. Multiple inbound signatures. Coordinated. I straighten. Adrenaline spiking clean and sharp. Well, I say, flexing my fingers. Looks like the system has something to say, and this time, it's answering with violence. The final operation doesn't look like a battle. There's no dramatic countdown, no speeches, just rapid movement through corridors that weren't designed for evacuation, only control. The headquarters is tearing itself apart, systems tripping over one another as too many failsafes activate at once. The board is panicking. Kane moves at the center of it all, calm, precise, terrifyingly focused. Orders snap from him in clean bursts, overriding protocols that were never meant to be questioned. Seal Sector 4. Reroute defense grid to internal firewalls. Cut command authorization at the source. A pause. Then, deliberately, bypass High Council clearance. One of the operators hesitates. Sir, that violates. Do it, Kane says. The word lands like a dropped blade. I watch it happen in real time. The system stalling, recalculating, failing to reconcile an alpha who refuses to play his assigned role. Kane isn't exploiting a loophole. He's tearing out the framework. You're burning every bridge you have, I tell him as we move toward the core junction. He doesn't slow. Bridges can be rebuilt. And reputations? He glances at me then, sharp and unguarded. I don't need one that requires your silence. That hits harder than any declaration could. We reach the junction as the first internal strikes land. Not external enemies, but systems turning on their own architects. Data corruption, counterorders, commanders locking out other commanders. The conspiracy devours itself exactly the way it was designed to devour us. Look at that, I mutter. They taught the system to eat threats, and forgot it would recognize them, Kane replies. Explosions rock the far side of the complex. Smoke curls through the corridor, acrid and real. We move together without speaking, covering angles instinctively. He trusts my calls. I trust his timing. No hierarchy, no leash, equal. A strike team appears at the far end of the hall. Elite, well-equipped, trained to end problems like us. Kane doesn't hesitate. On my mark, he says. I smile thinly. You don't have to tell me twice. We move as one. The engagement is fast and brutal. No wasted motion. No grandstanding. When it's over, the floor is littered with the remains of a plan that thought it was inevitable. Kane keys into the final console, fingers moving with surgical precision. He broadcasts one command across every remaining channel. Stand down, he orders. Effective immediately. Authority ripples outward. Not because of rank, but because enough people recognize the truth in it. The system falters again, then collapses into controlled shutdown. Silence spreads. I exhale slowly, feeling the adrenaline drain. You know, I say, for someone famous for ending wars, you're remarkably good at starting revolutions. Kane straightens, meeting my gaze. They started this, and you finished it, I say. No, he corrects quietly. We did. Around us, the conspiracy folds inward. Leaders exposed, commands voided, contracts rendered meaningless. The board cracks, then shatters, not with a single blow, but from too many fractures it never accounted for. For the first time, the system has no move left, and neither of us is on it anymore. After the fighting, the world doesn't rush back in. It hesitates. The air in the command sector is thick with smoke and the sharp tang of overheated circuitry. Emergency lights pulse softly, no longer urgent, just alive enough to remind us the building hasn't given up completely. Bodies are gone. The system cleans its own mess quickly when it wants to survive. Screens around us flicker as the last fragments of authority dissolve. Names scroll past, commanders relieved of duty, council members detained. Corporate intermediaries suddenly very interested in legal counsel. The pillars of the conspiracy fall not with explosions, but with quiet, efficient finality. I watch it happen with a strange sense of distance. For so long everything had felt personal. My death, my sale, my survival. But standing here now, it's obvious how small we were in the original design. We weren't the endgame, I say aloud. Kane stands beside me, his expression unreadable as he studies the aftermath. No, they never wanted to win the war, I continue. Just keep it alive. Just enough conflict to justify control. Contracts, pressure points, and obedience, he adds. I nod. Ending it too cleanly made you a liability, and surviving made you one, he replies. The realization settles in slowly, like dust after a collapse. The war wasn't a battlefield, it was a curtain. Something loud and bloody to keep everyone looking the wrong way, while systems rewired themselves behind the scenes. I feel a flicker of something then. Not anger, not grief. Relief. They didn't fail because we were stronger, I say. They failed because they got greedy. Kane's mouth curves faintly. That's usually how it goes. A notification blinks on the central console. Final confirmations. Arrests. Shutdowns. Oversight committees forming in real time, already rehearsing their statements. The machine resets itself. I wonder briefly how long that will last. Kane turns to me. This won't end quietly. No, I agree. Nothing ever does. Another pause. Longer. He studies me with an intensity that feels different now, less like assessment, more like recalibration. You should be resting, he says. I glance at my side, still bandaged, still sore. I'll sleep when the universe stops trying to erase me. That earns me a breath of a laugh from him. Short, unpracticed. The emergency lights dim, shifting to standard illumination. The building exhales, systems stabilizing into something resembling peace. And then, nothing. No alarms. No comm chatter. No incoming threats. Just quiet. It presses in from all sides, unfamiliar and heavy. The kind of silence that follows something ending for good. I hadn't realized how long it had been since the world stopped shouting. Kane breaks the stillness softly. They thought we were a conclusion. I meet his gaze. Turns out, we were just the interruption. The quiet remains. And for the first time since I was declared dead, no one is trying to tell me what comes next. The aftermath doesn't arrive all at once. It leaks in through official statements and provisional reforms, through commanders reassigned and contracts quietly voided. Systems don't apologize. They rebrand. They claim progress and call it accountability. Still, things change. Not enough. Never enough. But more than before. Omega deployment protocols are suspended pending review. Independent oversight committees appear overnight, armed with language sharp enough to cut through deniability. Names surface in public channels, attached to decisions that were never meant to see light. I watch it unfold from a secure observation deck, a mug of something hot cradled between my hands. I can't taste it. My body feels heavy in a way that has nothing to do with injury. This is new. The adrenaline is gone. The edge that kept me upright, alert, moving, it's burned itself out. In its place is a deep, bone-level fatigue that seeps into my joints and settles behind my eyes. Real tired, the kind that doesn't listen to training. I lean my forehead briefly against the glass and let myself breathe. Behind me, I hear footsteps, measured, familiar. Kane stops a few feet away. Not close, not distant. They're already rewriting the narrative, he says, framing this as a necessary disruption. I hum softly. Of course they are. Systems love a good euphemism. You force their hand. I glance back at him. We did. A pause. He accepts the correction without comment. They won't come after you directly, he continues. Not now. You're too visible. Lucky me, I mutter. Famous for surviving. He studies me for a moment, gaze lingering in a way that makes me shift my weight. You're exhausted. The observation isn't clinical. It isn't tactical. It's human. I consider lying. Decide I don't have the energy. Yeah, I admit. Turns out holding yourself together with spite and momentum isn't sustainable. Something in his expression softens. Not enough to be obvious. Enough to matter. You don't have to do anything else tonight, he says. Or tomorrow. That sounds suspiciously like an order. It's not, he replies. It's an option. I nod slowly. Options are a luxury I'm still getting used to. We stand there in silence for a while, watching the world adjust itself around the absence of a war it never intended to end. Eventually, Kane speaks again. There's something we need to address. There it is. The thing we've both been carefully not naming. The low-level awareness that hasn't gone away. The way my body still registers his presence before my mind catches up. I straighten, setting the mug aside. Yeah. I figured. He doesn't look away. It won't resolve itself. No. I agree quietly. It won't. The air between us tightens, not with danger this time, but inevitability. The fight is over, which means there's nothing left to hide behind. And whatever comes next, we'll have to face it awake. We don't meet in a command room. No steel walls. No holograms. No strategic displays quietly judging every word we say. It's a small terrace overlooking water. Real water, not projected or filtered through reinforced glass. The horizon is soft, unclaimed by borders or patrol routes. The air smells like salt and evening, not antiseptic or smoke. I didn't know how badly I needed that until now. Kane stands beside the railing, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up. He looks ordinary. Or maybe this is what extraordinary looks like when it finally puts the armor down. I lean on the rail next to him. Not touching. Close enough. So, I say. No alarms. No ultimatums. No one trying to kill us. He exhales. I'm not sure what to do with that yet. I smile. Same. We watch the water for a moment. Let silence exist without having to prove anything. I don't believe in inevitability, I say finally. Not anymore. Kane nods once. Neither do I. Good. We're starting on common ground. I won't be claimed, I continue. Not by instinct. Not by a bond. Not by you. His gaze flicks to me, sharp but calm. I wouldn't accept you if you were. That eases something tight in my chest. And I won't pretend this didn't change things, I add. Because it did. Agreed. We turn to face each other then. Really, face each other. No rank. No leverage. No audience. The connection exists, Kane says. Ignoring it won't make it disappear. And surrendering to it would make us exactly what they tried to use, I reply. A corner of his mouth curves. You've thought about this. I've had practice, I say dryly. Surviving systems with opinions. He huffs a quiet laugh. Real this time. Uncontrolled. So, he says, what do you want, Theo? The question lands differently than any before it. Not a test. Not a demand. A choice. I take my time answering. I want to decide, I say. Day by day. I want to stay because I choose to, not because something in my biology insists I should. He holds my gaze, unflinching. Then that's how it will be. And if I walk away? Then, you walk away, he says simply. Free. The word settles between us, warm and solid. I study him for a moment longer, then extend my hand. Not a claim, not a promise, just an offer. Let's start there. He looks at my hand, then takes it. Firm. Equal. No sparks. No dramatic pull. Just connection. Chosen and steady. The sun dips lower, painting the water in quiet gold. Somewhere behind us, the world continues to reorganize itself, learning, slowly, that not everything can be owned. We didn't win a war. We ended a lie. And for the first time in my life, I'm not being used as leverage, bait, or proof of concept. I'm standing here because I want to be. That's not victory. That's freedom.